Forestry is uniquely Canadian and special to Ontario. Our industry has literally changed the landscape of this province. As I began my career, I got to know the people and communities who depend on the sector. I've seen the annual cycle of harvesting, tree planting, and road building reflected in a yearly rhythm across northern and rural communities. It's really amazing to see how an industry can influence the very fabric of our communities.
Throughout the past year, Ontario's forestry industry has remained strong and resilient. As we move into 2021, there are lots of reasons for optimism for the industry.
Forestry is an essential source of economic activity in Ontario. Recovery, especially in rural and northern regions, will not be possible without a strong forest sector.
2020 has reminded us that we are much like the timber we work with. Powerful, durable, and filled with elegance and imagination. Flexible, creative, and able to overcome new barriers and challenges. And deep within our fiber, we carry so much beauty and strength. Let's take on the next 20 years with the same resolve as we have the first.
I'm George Peary, and I'm the Mayor of the City of Timmins. Welcome to our Ministers' Forum. In April, the FONOM board solicited questions of region importance from our membership. We received nearly 20 questions, and we shared all the questions with several of the government's policy advisors. The FONOM executive reviewed the questions, and they have narrowed the list to the following. Hi, I'm George Peary, and I'm the Mayor of the City of Timmins. The Ford government talks about an all-of-government approach, and FONOM wholeheartedly supports the government's vision of an all-of-government approach. One of the biggest challenges facing the North, the province, and the world is homelessness, opioids, and mental health. Your government has made some significant progress, but when it comes to a government approach to solving this particular crisis, there is a real lack of harmonization between various ministries. There is a real lack of coordination between the ministries and various transfer payment agencies that provide frontline services at the local level. FONOM supports an all-of-government approach. Minister Thibodeau, how will your government deliver on a provincially driven but municipally coordinated and managed service approach to the crisis and to produce actual outcomes for people of Ontario in area of housing, health, and mental health?
Hello everyone, Michael Tobolo here. It's always been our mission to ensure people and families who need the extra help can access the most appropriate mental health and addiction supports that meet their unique needs. Over the last year, our government has made investments of up to $194 million in emergency mental health and addictions funding to enhance and expand the availability of supports to Ontarians of all ages. As part of this funding, over $51.5 million is going towards a cross-sectoral approach to support vulnerable populations, which include First Nations communities, Métis, Inuit, and urban Indigenous peoples, Black youth, children, and youth in care, LGBTQ youth, people with developmental disabilities, and victims of gender-based violence. Through these investments, we have also funded virtual and online mental health tools, including Kids Help Phone for children and youth, Bounce Back Ontario for those 15 and older, and innovative internet-based cognitive behavioral therapy program for both adults and healthcare providers experiencing heightened anxiety and depression. Our latest data has shown us that over 71,000 Ontarians have accessed these virtual services since the pandemic began, including over 6,100 frontline healthcare workers. The ICBT programs available to all Ontarians via self-referral is a way to give people access to evidence-based mental health support in a safe and socially distanced manner. Since last May, over 32,900 people have enrolled in these programs. In addition, since the release of the Roadmap to Wellness, we have invested over $32 million in new annualized funding specifically to address the needs of those living with mental health and addiction challenges in the North. This includes new funding for additional inpatient mental health beds, mobile crisis services, peer support services, both in-home and mobile detox services, and opioid addiction services. On top of this, through this year's budget, we're investing an additional $175 million for more and better mental health and addiction services as part of our Roadmap to Wellness, meaning $525 million in net new annualized funding for mental health and addictions this year alone. This year's funding will support initiatives such as mobile mental health clinics in underserved communities and the expansion of the mental health secure treatment program for Ontario's most vulnerable children and youth. This year's funding will build on our previous annualized investments, which saw significant investments in support of housing, including $13.7 million to create a back-to-home program that will provide supportive housing for mental health and addictions patients in hospitals who do not need hospital-level acute care. $850,000 in rent supplements to retain supportive housing properties where agreements with Ontario are expiring, and $10 million to strengthen mental health and addiction supports for people experiencing or at risk of homelessness. To learn more about the many publicly available mental health and addiction supports for Ontarians of all ages, and to learn how to get help when you need it, please visit ontario.ca/mental health.
Hi, I'm Al McNevin. This question is for Minister Scott. 57 of the 110 municipalities in the Northeast have a population of less than 1,000. Many are underserved rural communities, and the lack of high-speed internet access has prevented residents from taking advantage of the many benefits and opportunities afforded by the digital era. Our businesses, health, and education are put at a real disadvantage compared to our better connected counterparts. We understand that steps have been taken to fund various projects, either federally or provincially. So Minister Scott, when do you anticipate that all of the North will be connected with high-speed internet greater than the 5010 standard?
Hello everyone, I'm Laurie Scott, Ontario's Minister of Infrastructure, and I'm delighted to have this opportunity to speak to you via video at the Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities 2021 conference. I'd like to thank you for your important question regarding one of my favorite topics, broadband connectivity. As someone who is also from rural Ontario, your question really resonates with me, as I have personally experienced many of these same frustrations. I understand how important it is to have reliable internet access to participate in our digital world, and many of you know I've been a strong advocate for better access for many years. That's why we're not waiting for anyone else to fill the gaps. Ontario is going all in on broadband. Less than 2 months ago, we announced through the Ontario budget an additional $2.8 billion to help ensure every region has access to reliable, high-speed internet by the end of 2025. This brings our total investment to nearly $4 billion over 6 years. This is the largest single investment in broadband in any province by any government in Canadian history. Our transformative investment will help ensure no one is left behind when it comes to access to high-speed internet. Meanwhile, we're moving forward on existing projects to bring reliable broadband to Northern Ontario even sooner. For example, in January, we announced nearly $11 million to bring faster broadband to several northern communities from Terrace Bay to rural Thunder Bay. Another example is our investment to upgrade broadband at public libraries in Northern Ontario and other regions, and an investment to help connect 5 remote Matawa member First Nation communities to reliable broadband. This spring, our government introduced and passed legislation that will help accelerate the timely deployment of reliable broadband infrastructure. And we're now reviewing applications under our $300 million Improving Connectivity for Ontario program, including several from Northern Ontario. We expect to announce approvals of the first project soon. Under the leadership of Premier Ford, our government is doing everything we can to provide 100% access to ensure everyone, no matter where you live, can participate in our digital world. I look forward to updating you all on more exciting news as we progress very soon.
Minister, we compliment you and your government's introduction of legislation on April 15th to make the Northern Ontario School of Medicine an independent, standalone, degree-granting institution. Emphasize the importance of ensuring that NOSM maintains a truly pan-Northern mandate and presence. The region cannot afford to have NOSM migrate exclusively to Northwestern Ontario. We need a Northeastern Ontario physical presence and ideally enhanced specializations on Northern issues, like long-term care and remote medicine. As a registered nurse, as a true Ontario person, I am thrilled that you are leading this. Minister Romano, can you commit that NOSM will remain pan-Northern?
Well, thank you very much for that question, and I'm very happy to be here with you all at a phenomenal FONOM meeting here in Northern Ontario, and I'm very excited to be able to join you today. And I really appreciate the opportunity to respond to that question about the Northern Ontario School of Medicine. Obviously, we have proposed legislation recently under the government's red tape bill to have the Northern Ontario School of Medicine move forward in the future as a standalone degree granting institution. This is something that we are very, very passionate about here in our government, because we believe that the Northern Ontario School of Medicine needs to be a school for all of Northern Ontario. And the Northern Ontario School of Medicine is already delivering great programming that leads to a degree. The only difference with respect to the legislation that we've proposed is that now NOSM will be able to do so under their own name. So when a student goes to the Lakehead or the Laurentian campus of the Northern Ontario School of Medicine, they will receive a degree from the Northern Ontario School of Medicine. The fact that NOSM will be a full degree granting institution, assuming this legislation passes, allows the Northern Ontario School of Medicine to now be in a position to do more to service all of the needs of all of Northern Ontario. There would be no restriction in any way, shape, or form to operating only in Sudbury through the Laurentian campus or at Lakehead's campus in Thunder Bay. But in fact, the Northern Ontario School of Medicine would be able to service all of Northern Ontario, and they would have the freedom to be able to do so through their own board of governors, their governance procedures, and they would not have to also proceed through a very duplicative process of having to then proceed after they go through their own governance structure, through the governance structure at either Laurentian or Lakehead. So you can imagine that you're taking a situation here where we already have a governance structure, and we're going to ensure that it's not doubled and in some cases tripled. And we're going to make sure that we're reducing the red tape, because this is all about reducing red tape. That is what the government's red tape bill is about. Fewer regulations, fewer government processes, and the ability for institutions to deliver the high quality education that they deliver. And in this case, on a pan-Northern basis across all of Northern Ontario. It's also really special to think about this, that the Northern Ontario School of Medicine will be the only independent school of medicine that is only a university delivering medicine, which is something that happens in a lot of jurisdictions around the world, but it'll be the first in Canada, something very, very special for all of us in Northern Ontario. So again, I'm very pleased to be able to respond to the question, and I really want to thank you all for the excellent work you're all doing throughout the North in helping out at FONOM and having great sessions like this. So thank you everybody again for participating. Thank you for the question, and I look forward to speaking with you again, hopefully sometime soon. And please make sure, stay safe, everyone. Have a great day. All the best.
This question is for the Minister of Finance and deals with municipal insurance. Mr. Minister, many communities in Northern Ontario have a small population, a small tax base, and an overly large infrastructure to manage. whereas a vast majority of member communities of FONOM have seen their municipal insurance increase on an average of 20%, one actually as high as 107%. This issue is having a significant impact on our tax increases. Minister, when will your ministry be able to step in to reduce insurance costs and help Premier Ford keep his promise to fix the problem of joint and several liability?
I understand the challenges that municipalities are experiencing due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And I want you to know that our government is committed to supporting our municipal partners. We know that COVID-19 has created additional difficulties for the commercial insurance market in many municipalities. And while these challenges existed before COVID-19, their effects have intensified during the pandemic. In 2019, our government consulted with municipalities on their insurance costs and joint and several liability. During these consultations, we received some useful data regarding insurance costs. As a result, we continue to explore how to address these serious issues in a way that balances the concerns of municipalities and plaintiffs, recognizing that a change to joint and several liability could have significant consequences for plaintiffs. This will be an ongoing conversation. We need to be confident that any changes to the liability framework would lead to a reduction in insurance rates. Our government has been in close contact with the insurance industry throughout the pandemic to explore ways to work together to keep insurance affordable and accessible. Ontario has a competitive commercial insurance marketplace, and policy terms vary between insurers and policies. I am confident that municipalities will be able to work with brokers or insurance to find competitive coverage and rates. As a government, we are reviewing all possible options to help address the costs of commercial insurance.
Bonjour, hello, amis. Je suis Nicole Fortier-Levesque, maire de Moonbeam, et il me fait plaisir d'être parmi vous aujourd'hui à l'occasion du congrès annuel de FONOM et de vous présenter notre prochaine invitée, la ministre Fullerton. We continue to experience and deal with wait lists that continue to grow, putting our vulnerable population at risk without access to long-term care. The recent COVID outbreak at extended care and long-term care homes demonstrates that many facilities in Northern Ontario no longer meet standards of quality care for the residents and support workers. Minister Fullerton, can you share your plan to address the shortage of beds and outdated long-term care facilities in Northern Ontario? Thank you. Merci, Miigwech.
So thank you to the Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities for that excellent question. It's our government that is acting on a plan to modernize long-term care. We inherited a neglected system over many, many decades. And the previous government took 7 years to build 611 spaces across the province. And it's this lack of building that not only meant waiting lists grew, but that homes became outdated and continued to age. Our government committed to building 30,000 new spaces over 10 years, and we are already at more than 60% of those beds in development. Some of these new and upgraded spaces are in Northern Ontario. For example, the Sault Ste. Marie Area Hospital has been allocated 128 new spaces. Castle Home in Nipissing has been allocated 24 new and 240 redeveloped spaces. And Botswana First Nations Long-Term Care Home has been allocated 96 new spaces to create a brand new home to serve Indigenous residents in Sault Ste. Marie. Our modernized funding model removes barriers to building and redevelopment to help long-term care homes get up off the ground. And it's responsive to the unique development needs of different communities, like those in Northern Ontario. New and developed spaces are only part of the solution. Our government has made the Canada-leading commitment to ensure that residents receive on average 4 hours of direct care per resident per day. And to make this a reality, tens of thousands of new staff need to be hired to provide this care. We are investing in training programs through Ontario's public colleges, private career colleges, and school boards that will graduate up to 16,500 new PSWs in the next year. This is more than 2.5 times pre-pandemic levels. And we're investing $246 million to improve living conditions in existing homes, including ensuring air conditioning for residents. And through a recent federal provincial investment, Espanola General Hospital, Rainy Crest in Fort Francis, and St. Joseph's Villa in Sudbury all received funding to make their facilities safer and more comfortable through upgrades to their HVAC and other systems. Investments like these ensure that our loved ones live in comfort, safety, with dignity and respect. We've also launched the Community Paramedicine Program, which makes it easier for seniors to live in the homes they love longer. It's now in 33 communities across the province, including Cochrane District, Rainy River District, and Greater Sudbury. Our government has a comprehensive plan to modernize long-term care, and we are acting decisively on this plan. I appreciate your time today. Thank you for the excellent question. Take care.
Whereas Schedule 3 of Bill 257 gives the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing the zoning order authority to expedite the delivery of government priorities, including transit-oriented communities, affordable housing, long-term care homes, and strategic economic recovery projects by removing potential barriers and delays. Minister Clark, can you share with us an example of when you have used the MZO to benefit a project? Also, can you ensure us the environmental concerns were addressed and medicated in your model?
Thanks for the question. I could give you 30 examples, but I'm happy to highlight 3 for you today. So last year, the City of Toronto requested a minister's zoning order to help speed up a much needed addition to Sunnybrook Health Sciences Centre. Normally, this would have been a straightforward change to a zoning bylaw for the City of Toronto. However, at the onset of COVID-19, Toronto Council wasn't sitting and requested the province's support to move forward the construction. This is going to add 47 inpatient beds and increase the hospital's capacity to treat brain-related disorders. The order is also clearing the way to help more jobs, housing, and infrastructure needed for our community and our road to economic recovery from the impacts of COVID-19. From day one, our government's been committed to cutting red tape and getting critical projects started. That's why another MZO was issued at the request of the town of Oro-Medonte to help get shovels into the ground faster for an automotive innovation park. This is a really unique facility. It's going to create 1,800 construction jobs and close to 700 full-time jobs upon completion. The site also features a 500,000 square feet of industrial space dedicated to automotive research, engineering, education, and development. And the best part, it includes a 4.1 kilometer test track with dynamic driving areas. Here's another example. The MZO was issued at the request of the town of Innisfil to accelerate the expansion of Tollendale Village Retirement Residency. The soaring demand for long-term care beds in the community prompted town council to vote unanimously in favor of the order. The new $200 million facility will provide 200 full-time jobs, nearly 400 retirement apartments, and 22 long-term care beds. Here's another stat for you. Deloitte recently found that MZOs are contributing $3.1 billion into Ontario's GDP and are helping to create up to 26,000 full-time jobs. We're doing all of this with a commitment to not touch the greenbelt as we protect the environment. MZOs remain an important tool that help municipalities cut red tape and get shovels in the ground faster to help with housing, healthcare, infrastructure.
Mr. Urick, municipal governments are concerned about the delay to finalize the Blue Box regulation. Producers, municipalities, service providers, and your government have been hard at work over 2 years to get this regulation right. The government has now missed 2 deadlines to finalize the regulation. Minister, can your government commit to releasing a final regulation by the end of May that will allow the transition to occur as published on numerous occasions from 2023 to 2025?
Thanks for the question. Our government has been taking steps to transition our waste management programs to a producer responsibility framework, making producers fully responsible for the waste of their products and packaging. It provides incentives for the private sector to reduce waste, and it's a competitive, market-based approach that will encourage better designs for products and packaging. Even more importantly, producer responsibility lifts the financial burden from taxpayers and municipalities for waste management programs. We now have producer responsibility regulations that are in place for 3 programs: used tires, batteries, and electrical and electronic waste. We have also released a draft regulation that will move all existing blue box services to producer responsibility starting in 2023. It would allow us to create the highest diversion targets in North America to motivate producers to achieve greater efficiencies and improve the design of their products. We are continuing to consult with producers and other stakeholders to help us finalize our regulatory proposal, and I look forward to releasing more details soon. Thank you.
Hi, I'm George Perry, and I'm the Mayor of the City of Timmins. That concludes the Ministers' Forum, and we would like to thank those communities that submitted questions, the ministers, and their staff for all their assistance in coordinating the forum.